practice how to reduce the plagiarism in a research paper. While preparing the presentation, I clearly felt that the plagiarism should be dealt first because through which we are coming across several parameters of a journal or a paper like indexing and impact factors. So I thought of dealing that later. So I have started my presentation. I like to start the presentation straight away from the plagiarism concept and the it is like how to reduce the plagiarism. So should not nobody should think that there is some mantra which I'm going to recite and the plagiarism is going to completely move off. It isn't so. I'm going to just give some basic awareness of this plagiarism and what are the limitations of the tools and how the paraphrasing or quoting as well as summarizing can help us in minimizing this plagiarism and even show some demonstration at the end if the time permits through application of some online existing paraphrasing tools which are genuine or which can be used in a positive way. Of course, many students who are in UG they use this for several prevalent situations just to avoid the plagiarism and to find out the alternatives of any statement that has been proved to a plagiarism. But here we can make use of it, but the only thing is we need to have a complete command on what we are doing. So that's the only thing we expect, and then slowly we'll move into what are the different types of indexings and what can like you and me should be having, and what the uh, class of society or what we call this as the fraternity expects from us, and how do you evaluate yourself based on these factors and indexings that can be easily understood by simple presentation that I have here. And it is purely out of experience because it is nothing like I do research and take some results and obtain some outcomes and I present to you. It is purely out of experience that obtained or inducted knowledge from meeting many people in and around. And basing on that, I am just giving my own experiences and my perception towards these two
बेटा
topics, the plagiarism and
है
indexing.
हैं पढ़ो अच्छा
Okay. So there is, so as I mentioned that I'm going to start with the, so what exactly this plagiarism is? So if we go through the definition, the plagiarism is the act of presenting the words, ideas, not limited to them, but also images, sounds, and in fact some creative expressions of
वो
others
लिया
as
थी ना
your own.
रपट तो आराम से बैठ
That
जाती
comes under what exactly known as what you how you define a plagiarism.
हैं
So presenting someone else work as his own. So if I what does it mean? If I change few words, is it okay? Right? No, it's wrong. Paraphrasing original ideas without documenting your source is plagiarism. That's what it means. Hence, referring the document is essential, which involves in giving credits to the source. And moreover, coming to as we are all academicians and research scholars, it is a serious academic offense to offer to plagiarism, but only to those, in fact, who feel that their academic reputation valuable to them. From this line, you can frame out the rationale of academic integrity in this way also. In fact, when you copy, what exactly happens is you are switching off your mind. You are not working on it. You are not learning. This is what actually happens when you copy and paste. It is essential to give credit to all the others whose ideas you use. At the same time, you get inspired. You get inspired from it. As and when you do that. This kind of citing gives us the authority to information you present. It also makes your authors to inform of the source and locate it. That means whoever reading your work, then it will be very useful for the readers to get connected to what exactly inspired you. And this plagiarism can be of two types, maybe deliberately done plagiarism or accidentally, which I mean here the intentional and unintentional. That's it. So the intentional, something like somebody might publish their false work or idea, or something like buy or borrow a simple book and then put your name, cut, copy, and paste without documenting properly and without recompiling it. And this is the major thing. And web publishing without permission or acknowledgements to the creator. Now, unintentional or accidental are those. Does not mean accidental does not mean that you have the privilege of saying so, but it just happened as you are unaware of it. It can be due to the carelessness while paraphrasing and misuse of these codes and very poor documentation, borrowing excessive data from others or excessively quoted data from others. This all come under unintentional, however, very serious issues. Yes, sorry. Now coming to the recent notification of the UGC. According to the recent notification, through 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, uh, it necessarily wants to promote the academic integrity by simply preventing the plagiarism in higher education institutions, especially. For this, it has point several objectives, and these objectives are the four objectives that are under the first statement. And for this, objectives and directives to the academic institution, the primary objective among these is to create awareness of this plagiarism policy of the UGC, in fact, especially, and its importance. The first part, while the second objective is to enable the institutes to frame out a self-reliant institutional mechanism to ensure and guard the policy and execution of it, so that it autonomously can take care of the entire thing within the institute itself. And moreover, third one, it involves in create awareness of various tools and techniques of plagiarism detection and how to utilize the services of the tools and to what extent it can be used, because there are several limitations and constraints of all these tools beyond which you can't really expect anything from them. So it is essential to know the limitations of these tools also. And also, in order to ensure strict implementation of the policy of preventing plagiarism through institutional level directions and sort out the issues of plagiarism through minor and major punishments. So it is essential to punishment. However, it seems like a little good. However, there are certain institutions and there are certain instances, especially in NITs, IITs, and several other universities as well as private institutes, where you find punishments to these people who are subjected to themselves to a lot of plagiarism. Now, according to this UGC notification or directives, there are certain category of content that comes under content to be checked for plagiarism, and there is set of category of content that doesn't need to be checked for plagiarism. For example, if you see the left hand side part, you have the full-fledged books written on a particular subject or research articles, white papers, the dissertations of UG or PG. In fact, now we are concentrating on PG, not necessarily on UG. And the research papers that you submit with the institute's affiliation and institute's IDs, and the thesis that you submit. Maybe if if your institute has a research center, obviously you have some scholars and they will be submitting the thesis to the university. Yes, citing you, I mean, taking your affiliation, your college affiliation as a research center as well as your affiliation too. So all these things they come under the content that needs to be checked for plagiarism, which also includes the chapters in books as well as on the whole the book if it is completely written by you or edited by you, and any other similar work that involves in your own, you proclaim that yourself that it's my own. And there is another set of content or category of content that doesn't comes under uh, there is no need to check it for plagiarism. And out of them, the assignments, the student assignments, the term papers, the project reports, a simple minor or major project reports, the courseworks, the essays, and the answer scripts. All these things they need not be checked, they need not be bothered, and we know all these. We know very well about all these things. Now, why resort to plagiarism? So I take it in this way, like to give some excuses, and these excuses may pressurize us to resort to plagiarism, to go for plagiarism, to practice plagiarism. And among them is the time constraint, which means that always we say that we are very much involved in NBA accreditation or NAC accreditation or NIRF and several other ex officio works or official managerial works in the college, and due to which we cannot concentrate on research or research writing. And in fact, there is it's a 9 to 4 job, and in which there is no element of research or article involved or allocated to a particular faculty member or research scholar at any point of time. So we take this as an excuse and keep on pushing plagiarism as a final conclusion. At the same time, it is also the research skills, if they are poor, then they decide to this plagiarism. And at the same time, if you don't have that interest to write, do research, or lack of knowledge or ability to put both, then this may be considered as another excuse, final resulting in plagiarism. And moreover, the most important part that is in general, many times many people come across is the second language, because we all have our mother tongue and we write in another language, English, because it has to be cited, it has the publisher demands the document, research article to be only in a particular language, and we always have to have the skill of writing or fluently use that language, and that happens to be a hindrance or a problem in many cases. And in spite of that, there are certain poor citation skills where you resort to copy the content, or you may call it as inspired by certain content or particular paper. However, you fail to cite it. Maybe that fail to cite citation might be due to your unawareness or the poor skills of citing it, because the citing a particular article is also has a certain guidelines that we are supposed to do. And then some people may feel like, okay, I don't get caught, everyone does it, what's the big deal? This is how if it goes, and it is something like you don't bother, then that must be the case. First, in some cases, you may interestingly or technically escape from one or two instances, but in other cases, you may be completely blunderly caught. That's the issue. And obviously, the targets and pressures, they are big problems, because we have a specific time domain on which we move and timelines which we have to fulfill between one point to the other point, from starting from maybe the pre-talk to thesis submission, from final examination to project report submission, and all these things they come under targets, and obviously you are subjected to a lot of pressure, and obviously you resort to kind of plagiarism. And moreover, the other thing is the unawareness of what constitutes a plagiarism, what exactly the plagiarism is. And of course, the last point, which is not applicable to many, but to be listed out, to be a point listed out in this, if you do not bother about the academic integrity, that's another big problem. Yes. Now, can we borrow content? If I change keywords, am I okay, right, wrong, or paraphrasing original ideas without documenting is what I told you earlier, right? Is it okay if you borrow? Yes, it is okay, but not exactly. There are certain rules that by which you have to borrow the content from another insert. And this modes of borrowing is classified, or there are three strategies of borrowing the content: quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. And all these three, the common point is in text citation. Now, looking at the paraphrasing, you first we not the quoting. We are. I want to just discuss about the paraphrasing. Yes. If you can see this, read, stop, think, and write. To go through what this little girl is doing is taking the help of Ren Martin and technically rewriting the entire content in without losing the meaning of it, but without copying any kind of word from one phrase to the other phrase. That's what she is doing. And what this intelligent guy is doing is something inbuilt in his mind in his own native language, and he's trying to find a similar word from the thesaurus of dictionary, which can quickly convey a similar meaning to the word that inbuilt in his mind. Then just replace the entire thing with these two kinds of skills. That's what it means. It also involves in putting the text in your own words. Next, while doing that, avoid copying the text. First, you put the text in your own words, the meanings such that the entire meaning is conveyed. While doing like this, you avoid copying the text. Then rearrange the similar text. Check yourself if you have included all the important points on it. So rearranging the word means like subject to predicate and predicate to subject. That's what we usually do in a conversation. And same thing can be practiced even here. And the other thing is start from the, if you take the statement, break that statement. Start from the end of the statement or start from the middle of the statement. Just do anything other than starting from the starting word of the statement. That's it, simple. And use of other synonyms. Make two sentences, the entire break the sentence into two sentences, and use these synonyms. Something like you start with "Did you know?" or you keep on changing some introductory phase of that particular statement. This is one way of handling it. Yes. The other one is quoting. So if here I have a small live example. Uh, Here I just would like to mention the rules of quoting. The rules of quoting that doesn't brings your uh, borrowed content under plagiarism. So here there are two ways of quoting. The first one is quoting means simply a statement, put them in the inverted commas. That's what quoting means. So this particular statement that you have borrowed and encapsulated between two inverse quotations obviously doesn't lead to any kind of plagiarism. Ethically, it doesn't comes under the plagiarism rule. However, there are two ways. There are multiple ways of quoting the good way and bad way. The good way means basing on his recent findings, Professor X mentioned the elliptical array have ease in terms of geometry as they need not exactly circular, need not be exactly circular. And at the end, just see, I have put it the reference as well as the page number also. While the used in the second instance, which is under the heading of a bad, where the have is in terms of the same blah blah not be exactly circular. And this is what concluded by Professor XXS in his recent studies. The meaning conveyed by both quoted texts and the statements framed by you are same. But the important thing is you have used the author or the source created good quoting, while in the not time the statement with involved they have started a new statement mentioning the source of this particular statement, even cited the reference. So this is a bad way of not so in your work. Okay. Now use of exact wording, exact match to the original source. Everything has to be brought under inverted quotations, and use these quotation marks to separate this data so that it can be quickly identified and quickly give an insight, I mean, in-text citation to it. This is what means. As I mentioned, paraphrasing, quoting, and summarizing. Coming to the summarizing, prior to this, we have actually discussed about paraphrasing, where quotes created line as original, include the in-text citation. That is what uh, has been, which is what we have discussed in paraphrasing. That is the statement which is inspiring you. That statement can be paraphrased with the same line, conveying the same meaning, but at the end you are supposed to do the in-text citation. And it involves in finding key details or important words. I mean, summarizing. It isn't so. Use your own words. Create passages which are shorter than the original. And include in-text citation. That's the only difference between paraphrasing and summarizing. You have freedom of using the entire length of statement and finally mention the inspiration file. However, in summarizing, it isn't so. You go through the entire text and you go on. For example, if you said that the movie is about a retired army major who lost his family to the hands and hired two young men to take the revenge on the dacoits who are responsible for his ill fate. Okay, now the view of Mr. Y in this case of the same movie is that it's all about two don't care type and risk taking type men who are out to pay rescue of a retired army personnel and end up their life in pursuit of their commitment brave. So both refer to the same movie and same story. However, the perception of X is different from the perception of Y. Y has taken the two characters, the a couple of young man and the army major, while both were inspired by the three characters, but the perception is from one side, the the perception of Y is from the other side. So this is what summarizing means. The entire story is summarized in very simple sentence. Can anybody mention? Can tell me what kind of a story it is? Which movie it is? Is it possible? Am I so bad in giving the in summarizing such a story? Can anybody? That's okay. Now, So no, you don't have to cite facts, common knowledge, and your own ideas. Cite facts means something like which is widely known, something like sun rises in the east, sun sets in the west, which is obviously a natural process that is taking place every day, and it is well known to everybody, and nobody can deny that. Nobody can say that it's my realization of the perception that I had on the nature. You can't give that. You can directly use that particular thing, and you don't have to give any documentation proofs nor evidence, nor you don't have to cite anybody's work in this particular. uh, the other thing is you don't also need to cite information or judgments which are publicly available considered as common knowledge. What is good, bad, ideal, etc. So all they have been widely accepted. The document, because they are just represented in everywhere, they are widely distributed. And so you need no documentation of concepts of others to mention these also. So, pura common knowledge here. Last one, uh, copy laws. And you can happily use these facts without citing all sources. That's why. So go through this simple decision making flowchart. Did you think of it? Yes. If you think of it, then do not cite it because it's your own idea and creation. If not so, is it a common knowledge? If it is yes, do not cite it. If it's not a common knowledge, then cite it. Simple. These if you go through these two steps, you find out whether a particular statement needs to be cited or not. No, in technical terms, coming to high specialization of antennas, what the fact is, the antenna or radiating systems. Yes, it is obvious and it is very well known fact, and it really doesn't require any kind of citation to it. However, the observation that I had or the perception that I had is the antenna or emerging systems as they are responsible for all the developments in these days because we are enjoying a lot of wireless gadgets, and antennas are responsible and they are associated with wireless gadget to some in maximum other than the IR and some other optical systems. So this is the observation that I had. And coming to the evidence and proof, there is a statement something like evolutionary computing tools are widely used for designing antennae and solve the complex electromagnetic problems with less complexity. So this is something which is not a fact or observation which has to be proved here. If not, why should somebody believe you? Because you haven't done this, you are quoting something else, and that has to be clearly mentioned here. So it needs certain kind of reference so that it can act as an evidence or proof. And the last, Professor Dib, while displaying the outcomes of his recent work on hybridization, mentioned hybridization is a comma that is missing over here. You don't mind that. Mentioned that combining these characteristics and overcoming the drawbacks of ALO and GOA are the main motivation behind hybridization of ALO and GOA in one hybrid algorithm. Inverted commas close, that means the quotes close, and at the end I have cited the source, and I can even include the page numbers. So this is known as the quoted text, and this is the way we have to give a quotation. Now, with the knowledge of this paraphrasing, summarizing, and quoting, let us play with a few examples. So here there is a source, and from the source I have taken some statements, and the statements are the suppression of side lobe level of antenna array is a significant factor that can enhance the reliability and validity of the communication system, and so on. This is what the text that has been extracted as it is from the source. Now, let us suppose that I have reproduced this content or inspired by this content and written the following statement. In this statement, I have used inverted quotes to give the entire statement encapsulated within these two. And at the end, however, I have mentioned the source here, as well as I can even include the page numbers. At the end, I have cited, I have listed in the references this particular document from which the source text has been extracted. So what do you think now? Is this plagiarized or not? Is this plagiarized or not? Yes, it is not plagiarized. Now, if you go through this, the same source, the same reproduced text. However, this time I have removed the inverted quotes, but I have cited at the end. So, in your opinion, however, at the end also, I have included the document in my reference list. So, what do you think in this particular instance? Did I subject to plagiarization or not? Did I attempt any plagiarization or not? Yeah, is it possible for you to answer to this? You can type in the chat window if possible, or else I can quickly move on. Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Okay. So my question was this example two, the instance, the text that has been presented as an inspired content, does it involves in plagiarization or not? So the answer is yes, it involves in plagiarization. In the previous case, the same, so we have cited, however, we have, as because I have taken the entire statement with verbatim, I have to encapsulate them in the inverted quotes. However, in this case, though I have copied the reference, but I have the content that has been as it is taken and adapted into my document without these quotes. Obviously, it leads to plagiarism. Now, if you go through third instance, where the same statement, the first statement, look at only the first statement, the suppression of the side lobe level of antenna array is significant factor that can enhance the reliability and validity of a communication system. The same statement has been repeated but in a different fashion, where I have identified the keyword, the suppression, replaced with minimization, enhance replaced with increase, significant replaced with important, and also the reliability and validity, they are replaced with dependability and lifetime of the communication system. This is what how I have rewritten the statement. So now the question is, does it subject to plagiarization? Now, do you think I need to refer it at the end because I have been inspired by it, and the inspired content that I have rephrased and mentioned here conveys the meaning, but completely having the several wordings which are not mentioned in the previous source or the actual source. Do I really need to refer it at the end? The first question is whether it is plagiarized or not. Yes, it is plagiarized. The plagiarization can be in terms of meaning also. So it has been plagiarized, not just for the reason that I have listed the document, source document in the reference. Even if I mention it also, I have to have the citation exactly close to this statement, mentioning that this has been entirely inspired by the following text citation. That's this is how it is. Now, if you go through the fourth instance in which the source the same content, while in the inspired content the entire statement is rewritten. However, it is mentioned at the end that it has been taken some inserts in terms of inspiration from a source, Anasi Amera et al. 2019, and also at the end I have included in the list of references the document. So in this process, do you think it is plagiarized or not? The answer is no. There is no plagiarization here because I have not used the inverted quotes because the verbatim content has not been copied. And if you look at the first statement, the suppression of side lobe levels of antenna arrays is a significant factor that can enhance the reliability and validity of communication systems. Here, as well as I am very pretty much sure that I am talking about antenna arrays, so I have started the statement. This is what known as paraphrasing statement in a peculiarly in a different way. I have started from the middle, addressing the antenna arrays, and addressing the antenna arrays in a different way, like the associated radiating device is responsible for the performance of the communication system. It is as simple as that. And it is also mentioned in the subsequent statement that it is evident from literature that the characteristics of the system can be improved with the corresponding radiation characteristics of the antenna arrays in terms of side movement. So this is how the meaning is conveyed. However, in while paraphrasing, I have not used the quotes at any point because I'm not verbatim copying it, and I have started broke the statement into several in terms of meaning, and I have started the statement in the paraphrased or inspired content from the middle word of the source statement and carried on further to give the convey the same meaning as it is. So this is how I can say that this is not plagiarized. So the main problem that we have is the plagiarism checking tools, and this is where we are caught every time. So there are n number of plagiarism checking tools which are vastly available online. Authenticate and Turnitin. These are two magnificent tools that are renowned softwares that are available and widely accepted also. So here, coming to this part, we are talking about Turnitin because we are not interested in the other plagiarism checking tools because they are very inferior when compared with this Turnitin. This happens to be a very spectacular tool coming to plagiarism checking. And what it exactly done? It just done electronic text matching software. It is just an electronic text matching software, and it does the text matching operation. That's it. In something like a digital fingerprint, and it was actually developed by James Baer, and it is also renowned software for checking the plagiarism. That's what I just need to mention. However, if you go into this matching and not matching, or the exact operation of this Turnitin tool, what are the things that it finds to be matched? So it compares your text with the content that is available in its database, and its database includes web pages, documents, project reports submitted or uploaded by many students across all the universities, It also includes all the journal papers of reputed publishers, which are not even accessible to us, but they are accessible in free to this alternative tools. So it matches with the internet resources, and that is the 4.5 billion web pages that are included in the database of this Turnitin. And also it has a proprietary database, and it also has access to this proprietary database, because these proprietary databases, they have their documents contained in them. They don't really, give it freely to read on internet or in any other form. We have to actually buy, or we need to have a license, or we need to have a login. So proprietary database also it matches, and previously submitted student papers. Earlier to you, your seniors and juniors, whoever submitted documents, it also compares with them with the same university or the other university, and which is counting up to 10 million plus. And what it can't match, the print materials, the print based materials. What do you mean by print-based material? If you take a screenshot of the entire page and put it in your text, and such that you mark it up in such a way that it looks as good as a typed content, then unfortunately this Turnitin cannot read that. It takes it as a printed. It cannot go through the text, and it cannot extract anything from it. It also any book that has not been converted into an electronic version, and it exists only in a printed form, and that content cannot be matched with your paper. And a range of proprietary databases, and also in the previous matched category, I have mentioned the proprietary databases, and here also I am mentioning the proprietary databases. So the proprietary databases, few they are allowed to access, allowed for access to this tool, and some they doesn't allow access to this tool, because they don't have any kind of interest in Turnitin or any other thing. So they doesn't bother about what exactly it is. So they keep it secure, and doesn't bother about these tools. And the other thing that it cannot match is the diagrammatic or pictorial representation and the mathematical formula, especially those which are written and taken a screenshot and pasted in your document, or nicely written in math type, then copied from the math type environment and brought it to the word environment. And all these things it cannot match. In fact, the pictorial, you can't query with a picture, and it can't even go through the diagrammatic representation of it. And besides this, any document that has not been converted into electronic form which was existing prior to this internet era, if it is not converted into electronic form, then this two cannot match. So these are the two categories that comes under matched and unmatched. So what exactly this tool does? It do not detect plagiarism. It just does calculation of similarity index, or it cannot. It is not so intelligent to go through the text and find out whether it is plagiarized or not, in the way we have done in the past earlier with respect to the 4 examples. The tool typically goes through the matched words and counts them using a particular formula, mentions the amount of plagiarism content is involved in it, or similarity index, I mean in terms of similarity index, and gives you the result. That's it. However, it is not so intelligent to apply all the rules that we have framed, coming under quoting, paraphrasing, summarizing. You can't go through all these things. It is not so intelligent to neatly frame out all these things as rules and start giving a qualitative judgment on it. And cannot differentiate between the legitimate citation and unsourced secondary text used either in error or illegitimately. So, as I mentioned, that there are few instances where accidentally you come across it. So, such things it cannot be so intelligent to avoid. So, how this stuff works, we have to upload the document and then you have to upload the document, then turn it in server, compares the submitted documents against vast existing database of it, which includes 10 million student papers and several billions of journal papers and documentation from several sources and universities, and then content database can it clearly matches with it, and the results are returned in the form of customized originality reports. This is what being done. And in the original report, you usually find the highlighted match sentences, and you can also go to the original source through these matched sentences or highlighted sentences in color. We can indicate overall percentage of the matched text similarly in the form of in terms of similarity index with equal test, and the color coding is essentially useful for us to discriminate the sources and the content that has been extracted from other different sources. And the originality report also capable of conveying the academic judgment, and which must be applied in interpreting the originality report. So it all depends upon depends upon the journal or to whom you are submitting, and if he allows the paraphrasing through quotes, then it's fine. But however, it has to be informed to the tool about it. So this is how it is. On the right hand side, you have the matching, and the left hand side, you have the content. And if you click on that, automatically the content gets highlighted, and clicking on the red color, it directly goes to the source. This is how it is possible. However, there is a situation where a protected database content cannot be displayed, only its reference can be displayed, because that is not possible. In some cases, for example, where we have submitted our thesis to JNT Kakinada, then it is a completely protected database. It is not open to Turnitin until and unless it is saved in the repository of this plagiarism tool. So under such situations, what it does is it can check. However, it cannot directly go through the link and display the content of that thesis. This is not possible because that is a protected content. That is saved in the repository only, which means that it is meant for only for checking the similarity index. That's it. So the question is, which cite? Let's display. Yeah, thank you. So why should we cite? Because it's the only way we can give credit to the source or the authors who are responsible for the source. And as I mentioned earlier, it gives a kind of authority of information or to the information that you have presented or put it in your text, so that the readers can definitely believe in it. And citing makes it possible for your readers to locate your sources. This is what also mentioned earlier. It has to be actually discussed earlier. However, which means that the readers do have some enthusiasm, maybe interested to pursue your work, maybe interested to know the roots of your interest and motivation that has driven to you to this particular work. So they might need to start from the point where you have started. So for that, they should have information of the source and where you have started or where you got the inspiration. For this, this citation would definitely help in that. Coming to this concept of citation, so this citation is a conceptual association of scientific ideas as recognized by publishing research authors. It also provides a linkages between one document to the other document from source to the reference to the cited content or source to the inspired content and so on. So, how do we usually differentiate, distinct between a citation and reference? Now, in this, we have considered two documents. The first document is referred as R, the second document is referred as C, while R contains some content that has been inducted into the document C. In this case, R serves as a reference and C serves as a citation to R. So this is how the relation between the citation and the reference. Now, if you see this, the paper R exists first, which is little aged, while citing platform of citing document C serves as a citation, and will be treated as citation from R. And finally, the paper C, the paper C, which is citing the reference R, should also have in its list of references paper X, paper Y, paper R, and paper Q, where you can find the paper R here. And similarly, the case with X and Y. And coming to this citation index. So these indexes, citation indexes the citations an article makes linking the articles with the cited works. So it indexes the citations an article makes linking the articles with the cited work. And coming to this, originally designed for literature research or literature search or literature review, for researchers to find out subsequent articles that cite a given article. And this is invented by Eigen Garfield, and this firm, later known as the Institute for Scientific Information, ISI, and there are several databases that come under this ISI. It typically indexed the linkages by listing both the cited and the citing works. And the databases, they are Science Citation Index, Social Science Citation Index, and you also have Arts and Humanities Citation Index. And there are certain multidisciplinary, they cover virtually all disciplines whereas traditional indexing and abstracting services are limited to single field. Now coming to this web of knowledge, it's a dynamically integrated web-based environment, and under that we have this web of science, and it can provide access to all the SCI journals, SSCI journals, and arts and humanities citation journals or documents, and it is quickly updated every week, and you can quickly navigate from reference to citation and citation to reference, or in simple sense means through the literature across all the disciplines. This is possible, and this is how you access this. And there are certain advantages and disadvantages with this citation index. So, I mean, it is subject for about the relevant descriptors. Which is not possible in a traditional indexing case, and it is faster. And however, it has no limits of indexing terms. I mean, they suffer a lot of disadvantages, and out of which some of them are it requires a lot of manual effort because nothing is automated, and it is pretty much expensive because you have to actually buy the license of it, and then it has several automating the citation units. And this is how you do this. CiteSeer is another solution, and where you have autonomous citation indexing features with which you can actually the citation can be possible in terms of text also, not just context but also full text. Indexing can also be done. The query sensitive summaries also possible, awareness and tracking. And this is the document from which this entire text has been taken. It is directly published work by and conference, and this is directly taken from that. And if you see this, how it exactly works. So they download all the documents that we have uploaded, published somewhere, and they convert that into text and parse it through keywords, and they list out all this for forming a text indexing, and then store them in their databases. That is what they do. And now it is possible for us to track down through this and track down through this to back and forth, and it is actually possible to count also. Earlier, it is not meant for counting, but it is just meant for the convenience of the researcher to move forward and backward and go to the source in a convenient way. So now IDs. There are 5 researcher more than this. In fact, IDs are available. However, 5 to 6 research IDs are a must. Even if you want to apply to AQIS or SERP or any other public funding, the ASCT or the DST funding. And out of them, these 5 are listed out as more crucial, and some of them are these are Open Researcher and Contributor ID, that is ORC ID, and the other one is the Scopus ID. You can search through this and you can create your own ID in this website, and you can place out your box. The researcher ID is another such ID. However, in this case, uh, there is something like Publon that has to be discussed. Something like the citations that you get for the research papers that you publish. Similarly, there are certain indexing or certain acknowledgements given to you for every research paper that you review, and all are the tracked and they are registered in it, and they along with the review comments. However, accessible to everybody, but the core information can be possible. So, so my visit Microsoft Academic ID, and the last one will be one ID. But it's free. You have to go through 2 documents. The first one, which is published in 1945, has to be made free by writing Gatfield in association with somebody else. Uh, Similarly, another document in 1955, citation indexes of science and new dimension documentation in the association of indexes. So till then, this citation index is used only for uh, going back and forth. Yes. Now, why do we, in the previous two documents, we come across the impact factor name first time, and those are the inspirations. Basing on that idea, only the impact factor has been found and started working on it. Now, the question is, why do we need impact factor? Evaluate, to evaluate the scholarly worth of a journal. That's one. The other one is ranking, that means rank journals within the particular discipline. So these two, they refer, the evaluate and ranking, these two, they refer to journal. And another one is journal selection. Basing on this evaluation and ranking, what you can do is you can decide where to publish your article for maximum impact of your work. And the third one is related to your document, your works, that is self-evaluation. For example, for promotions, for grants, if anybody your grade you on your publications, then obviously he has to look into the quality of publication. And the quality of publication depends on the ranking of the journal and the evaluation that has been carried out with respect to the journal in which you are publishing your paper. So for the self-evaluation, we need to have this, and in some countries, in fact, make yourself eligible for the government funding. For example, and librarians frequently use this as an evaluation source during journal cancellations or new journal purchases. We used to every year cancel few journals of least interest or journals which cannot create any kind of impact to the readers, and few journals which have some good impact. So to identify such things, for these librarians, this impact factor is a very good research. Quality index, we have Thomson Reuters, which is WMS. That factor is one term. One index, other one is immediacy index, the hygienic factor index, index, and should I go general cited ranking. So coming to the factor measurement and tracking, the IF, the factor will measure reflecting the average number of citations to articles published in science and social science journals. We use it as a proxy for journal, the journal with high impact factor need to be more important than those with lower ones. The impact factor, the journal is here, calculated yearly for those journals that are in the CiteSeer. So, cited references and citation or times cited. It's the two important things. Cited references, number of references, uh, publications which have been cited, and uh, the other parameter is the times it is cited. So this JCI publication by this easily get to the JCI from the WOS website. Both WOS and JCI are based on the same database of citation and cited. The annual publication by the Healthcare and Science Division of Thomson Reuters, the WK access from US to the web. It provides information about the academic journals in the sciences and social sciences. Yes. Can I mute it? So this is, it was originally published as a part of a SCI and is compiled from citation data that is found there. So the actual thing lies in the database. So if you want to calculate this impact factor, in a given year, the impact factor of a journal is the average number of citations received per paper published in that journal during the two preceding years. So for example, in this instance, if you are trying to calculate the impact factor for 2020, then you have to have a window period of which comprises of 2019 and 2018. And in the adjacent figure, you can see how the impact factor has been calculated basing on the number of citations that a particular journal articles have received. First, it has to be counted for 2018 and 2019. Then, for the year 2020, it is calculated in this way. The total divided by total number of articles or citations published in 2020. For example, if the number of times articles published in 2019, sorry, 18 and 19 were cited by indexed journals during 2020. And if it is a number A, then the total number of citable items published by that journal in 2019 and 18, which is represented with certain another figure that is B, then the impact factor of 2020 will be A divided B. Sum of both and divided by the total number. So there is a lot of criticism that the impact factor is also facing. And if you try to list out that there is a lot of criticism, however, we have certain significant points under this criticism. And one of them is only journals cited by ISI are considered here, because whoever uses the article cited by the 13,000 plus or so and so the ISI journals, and some disciplines are especially poorly covered by this, and it is completely biased in language because it is inclined completely towards the English language journals. And ISI has recently added several hundreds of non-English journals, of course, but still the domination of the English journals is predominant still. And in short, it's a very short period over which the impact factor has been calculated, because while calculating the impact factor, we take across only 2 years as a window period. This isn't enough. In fact, JC are now looking forward and taking the 5 years data also into consideration. So, and the other criticism is the self-citations. It includes self-citations, that is articles in which the article cites other papers in the same journal. At the same time, it only includes citable articles in the denominator of the equation. If you see, that is the articles and reviews. Editor can quickly do any kind of skewing of this impact factor by simply increasing the number of review articles, which brings in more number of citations. Okay, so that is the case. So whatever that is citable, that article for that particular article is considered, and that is placed here. That isn't the case in many other. So that is a point of severe criticism. And moreover, if you want to adapt or use this impact factor calculation on a particular journal, then you have to pay a lot of remuneration to buy the license and contribute to it. And the other factor is the immediacy factor or an index. It is a measure of how topical and urgent work published in a scientific journal. So, along with the better known impact factor measure, it is calculated each year by the ISI for those journals which it indexes both impact factors and immediacy journals are published annually in the journal citation reports. For example, here, if you want to see how the immediacy factor is calculated, the immediacy is calculated based on the papers published in a journal in a single calendar year. For example, in the year of 2020, there are 60 papers which are cited, and there are a 100 number of journals papers which are actually published. So the immediacy index for the year 2020 would be 60 divided by simply 100. So it takes two numbers. The first number, the numerator is the number of times the articles published in 2020 were cited in indexed journals during 2020 itself. While in the denominator, you have the number of articles, reviews, proceedings, or notes published during 2020 itself. And thereby the immediacy index would be 60 divided by 100 in the context, which is 0.6. So along with that, you have even this eigenfactor index, the eigenfactor project. It's a non-commercial academic research project sponsored by some laboratories in the Department of Biology at Washington University, and it is available in eigenfactor.org. And interestingly, it takes into consideration the previous 5 years, and this score should have a higher, the better value. For a journal, the number of times articles published in the previous 5 years have been cited in the current year. It also considers which journals have contributed these citations, so that highly cited journals will influence the score more than lesser cited journals. So the self-citations in this particular case are completely removed because the number seems to be pretty much big. So in this particular case, just like unlike the case of impact factor, the self-citations are completely removed, and that is the reason why it is considered as a measure of journal's total importance to the scientific community. And they are scaled so that these eigenfactors, they are scaled so that the sum of eigenfactor scores of all the journals listed in the Thomson's JCR is 100. In addition to this, actually, there is something else known as article influence. Article influence score measures the average influence per article of the papers in a journal. As such, it is comparable to Thomson's scientific impact factor. It is calculated simply by dividing the eigenfactor score by the number of articles published. That's it. Article influence scores are normalized so that the mean article in the entire Thomson JCR database has got a value not more than 1. That is it. So how do you find this eigenfactor and EF? Yes, they can be directly found where the EF is found, but the eigenfactor, which is nothing but the eigenfactor.org. So these are some other indexes. Let me check. Yeah, we have this citation index, the H index, which is also known as the H index, and item index, G index, research gate score, and so on. Now, if you look at this citation index, it is typically the sum up of all the citations to a particular paper published by you, or I mean not a particular paper, but if you have published 10 papers through the entire life, it sums up all the cited papers to give you an index score, mentioning that it is the cite score of your noteworthy research that we have contributed in the form of documentation to journals. So the other one is H index. It is actually proposed by H, and it is an index to quantify an individual scientific research output. This impact factor is just for journals, though it's not often used to evaluate others also. Okay, so we have the habit of doing this because even in Google Scholar, if you go through your index, you will find this H index as well as item index too. Though they are actually meant for not others, but also for but actually meant for the journals. Coming to this, it combines an assessment of both quantity, that is the number of papers, and quality, that is the impact. That means in terms of the citations to these papers. The index can be directly applied to the productivity. It emphasizes the productivity and impacts group of scientists such as departments of the university or the country. That's the reason why you can calculate this particular index to a particular department and an institution or research organization. Now this H index, it is actually calculated or automatically by this WOS, Scopus, and publish or perish we download, and it is also calculated by your Google Scholar. It can also be manually calculated for another based on the number of papers authored and the number of times each paper has been cited. So if you try to understand what exactly this H index is, if a scientist or an author has an index H, a scientist is said to be having a H index of H. If H of his n number of papers have at least H citations each. And it also means that the remaining n minus H number of papers does not have more than H citations each. This is how the H index is computed. Coming to the item index, it is the number of journal papers that have at least 10 citations. It is the number of papers that have at least 10 citations. That comes under item index. Coming to G index. G index is an index for quantifying this scientific productivity based on the publication record, just like H and item. However, this is calculated based on the distribution of citations received by a given researcher, just like the previous item and H citation. But in this particular case, if you try to calculate this G index, given a set of articles ranked in decreasing order of the number of citations that they receive, the G index is the largest number such that the top G articles receive at least a G square number of citations. G square number of citations. Each of them, in order to have a G index of H, in this way, it is similar to the H index. However, the way we calculate it is different. While calculating H, you have to stop at the point of number of journals which have H number of at least H number of citations. Those number of citations. But here it should have G square number of citations. So obviously, this will be definitely less than H. For sure. Okay. So, but still, even on this H and G, there are certain criticisms. For example, take an instance of a particular person who has published throughout his life only 4 and got deceased after that. Okay, so he can get more even after his death. He can populate his citation index, but he cannot go through this this G index. That's the problem, or H index. So that's the clear problem that we have, because the number of journals, the number of publications after his death can't be increased. So obviously, the maximum value that it can have is limited to the maximum number of papers that he has published. But it isn't the case with a simple citation index. It keeps on increasing even after his death. It completely calculated based on how the impact it is creating exactly the work. So this H index is not usually used for others or individuals, but we have the practice of doing it and calculating our own H index. Let us take a simple example in which, let us suppose that you have published 10 papers and the number of citations across against each paper are listed on the right hand side. 101 for the paper 1, 82 for paper 2. Now if you want to calculate the citation index, simply sum up all the indexes, all the number of citations, then that gives you the total number of citations, and that citation score is 365 in this case. While I-10, if you see the last, when it is sorted in descending order, the last paper which has a citation of at least 10 is the 6th paper, because from 7th onwards it is 8, which is less than 10. So in this case, the I-10 index is 6. Well, coming to the H index is an index. If it is 7, it means that there are 7 papers which have at least 7. And if n is 10, the total number of papers, n minus h, that is 10 minus 7, 3. The remaining 3 cannot have this, cannot have more than this H index number of citations. Yes, the last 3, if you see, they are 4, 4 and 1, and they are not more than this H index. And G index is 4 in this particular case. Why? Because there are 4, yes, there are 4 journals which have at least 4 square number of citations. You may ask me, there is a 16 at paper number 5, but if you take 5 into consideration, then again still the corresponding G index should be, G value should be G square, that is 25. So this particular author can have a G index of 5 if the last paper, that is paper number 5, is 25 and none below that have a number of citations below 25. So this is how it is calculated, and there are several other HB indexing, which is like an extension to H index, which I have not discussed here. However, it is not developed by H. H is only developed by H, and HB, it is an idea of Michael Banks of Max Planck Institute of Solid State Research of Germany, and HB index is defined as the same manner of the H, but it is based on a topic or a compound, such instead of a scientist name. So this is something like in other way doing or calculating this H index, but not on a particular person. So now, so thank you very much. Now, if you have any queries in this, I tried my level best to share the experience that I have gained with discussions with people in this elite personalities of this field, and I try to put them, consolidate them, recompile them, and prepare this presentation specifically for you. The only thing that I would like to mention at the end is that paraphrasing and quoting or summarizing are ethical standards which you even if practice doesn't term it as plagiarism. However, it completely depends upon the tool that you are using. For example, this Turnitin, it is not so intelligent. The well-renowned Turnitin itself is not so intelligent. Obviously, it is not possible for us to handle this kind of thing. The only way is to simply read, think, and write. That's the case. And I think we are running out of time actually, because I just wanted to show you some paraphrasing tools. I believe you all know about the paraphrasing tools. Paraphrasing tool is something which is available online, which can you dump your data into that and run it. It gives you another text in its purview. It believes that the entire text has been paraphrased in an intelligent way. However, it is you who has to decide it finally, because there are certain weird paraphrasing tools that they capture the word, parse it, and they uh, find out the other nearest meaning, which technically won't suitable to the paragraph in which you want to convey the meaning. Okay, so that's it from my side.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Samir Chakravarthy.
Thank you.
There is a question from Dilshad Sheikh. How to judge the journal is good or bad?
Yeah.
Good or not?
Yes. Yes. This is the what do you call an alarming stage where we have to actually discuss about this particular important aspect of judging a journal, because we have been receiving a lot of mails mentioning that our journal is having an impact factor and our journal is also Scopus index. So the only way whether to find out, first of all, to judge a journal, you need to first believe that it is a quality journal. And what you have to do is you can judge the journal's quality only by the corresponding indexing. You can quickly go through the Scopus indexing or SCI indexing or ESCI indexing, WOS, or this indexing. Just you have to check whether your particular journal is listed in those indexes or not. Still, even then, there is a specific way to trace your journal and submit appropriate your paper to the exact identified journal. Because there are several predatory journals that are moving along. Some websites they have been developed, which we call it as cloned websites to cloned journals. So in order to avoid those clone journals or predatory journals, what you are supposed to do is, when you go through Scopus index, you find appropriate journal for your particular theme or work. Take the corresponding ISSN or ISBN number, the electronic or ISSN number, EISSN number. Go to Shimago, type there. You will find the whether it is listed or not. Yes, if it is listed, then you can go to your Scopus journal finder. After logging in, go to the sources, check the ISSN, where you have a facility to go to the direct website. That can't be managed because it is in the entire database of Scopus. So you can rely the link that is provided in Scopus. Click that, go to the corresponding journal's website, and there you submit it. Or if there is no such scope provided by the journal in the Scopus, so what you can do is you can check the journal's existence. If it is existing, fine, it is good, and then go to the latest paper that is published in that journal. Then Google that paper, to copy that title, Google, then go to the journal in which this particular titled paper is existing, and that's the original journal. So this is how you can avoid the predatory journal. However, if your question means to find out the appropriate journal for your paper, okay. In that sense, what you have to do is you can make use of journal finding tools in Scopus. Directly go there in Elsevier. You drop your abstract. You would have written your abstract and keywords. Then that gives you a list of journals that are appropriate, can accept your, can take up your paper for review, and you can also judge according to the intelligence that we have, and then you can select the journal. Uh, this is the another way. Of course, if the question was something like you want to find an appropriate journal for your manuscript. Otherwise, if you want to judge a journal, the previous discussion is sufficient enough to have a view on it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I request if there are any questions, you can feel free to unmute and speak to the speaker. Okay, if there are no questions, I think Dr. SLN sir has joined. I request SLN sir to give the closing remarks.
Dear Dr. Sudhir and Dr. Samir, in fact, I was little late, but the talk is really wonderful. Really, I never expected such a wonderful talk from my colleague. In fact, it really very good talk. In fact, basically what happened, there are a lot of data he has given. May not be sufficient in one go. It will go to our brain. We have to really split this thing into two talks. Maybe in the coming years we'll have the maybe same talk we can put. I think kindly stop recording, Sudhir.